If you're struggling with speaking, then you're in the right place, because in this video I'm going to tell you some special banner tips, and if you follow these tips, your speaking will 100% improve. So let's start with the very first tip, which is about fluency. Keep it in mind that your fluency is the most important thing. It carries more weightage than any other metric. It's more important than your grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. And remember that fluency improves over time. You will not improve in a day or two. You need at least a week to improve your fluency, and not just sitting and believing and hoping that my fluency will improve. You need to practice on a daily basis, and not with just any other person. Practicing with a random person can only help you in boosting your confidence. But if you want to correct your mistakes, you want yourself to be evaluated and really improve, then you need to speak with a person who knows better English than you. It can be your English teacher or any family member, a friend who knows better English than you. Actually, most Band-Aid as well as Band-9 students have taken a mock test before they sat in the real speaking exam. So I would advise you to definitely get evaluated by somebody who has a good grip over English in comparison to you. And don't take any app, any chat GPT. They won't help you. You need to be evaluated by a real person, not artificial intelligence. Next, you should be speaking at a moderate pace. If you speak very fast, simply the examiner will not understand you, and it will reduce your pronunciation score. I've seen tons of students speaking very fast in the speaking test because they're full of tension, they're stressed, and they will speak like, "Where do you live?" I live in Magazan Khuni, which is situated in the center of Lahore, and it's a very beautiful city, and it has these many facilities and all these other things. This way, you are speaking too fast, and it will hinder the examiner from understanding you. Hence, he will reduce your band score. On the other hand, you shouldn't be speaking too slow, because the examiner will think that you aren't fluent enough and are just trying to keep up with the conversation. Just act normal, release all of the tension, treat it like a normal conversation, and speak at a moderate pace. You will do great this way. You should also have a good grip or vocabulary if you want to move to a band 8 or 9. For band 7, you don't need to have a very good vocabulary, but if your target is band 8 or 9, then you need to have a good grip or vocabulary. And by this I mean you need to use topic specific vocabulary. Vocabulary that is only specific to some topics. For example, for the topic of education, I can use curriculum, I can use tertiary education, I can use dropout. These are topic specific vocabulary, and none of them is a complex word. Instead, I would avoid using complex words because it will just hinder my fluency. You should only use complex words if you know how to use them. And talking about word lists, you should have them, but not just any random word lists. You need to know where to use them, from what context they were chosen, where they can be used. When speaking with the examiner, I would advise you to be a bit informal because it will relax you and you don't need to be completely formal. Be informal as you'll feel at ease, and your vocabulary can also be quite simple, like you can use kids instead of children, only in the speaking, not in writing. Lastly, you should be giving examples in each part. In part 1, generally you would ask 6 to 7 questions. That doesn't happen, by the way, because the examiners are in quite a hurry. So suppose he'll be asking 5 questions, and out of 5 questions, I would advise you to give examples in at least 2. Why should you give examples? Because it demonstrates your ability to speak fluently, and whenever you're encountering a real life situation, you can give an example. So it's important to give examples. Don't skip this part. Similarly, in part 2, you should also be giving examples, and in part 3, where you're asked about general topics, usually 4 to 5 questions will be asked. And suppose you are asked 4 questions, and I would advise you to give examples in at least 2 out of 4. Part 3 answers are longer than part 1. So here with an explanation, you should be given an example, but not in every other question. 2 out of 4. And don't repeat the word for example, for example, for example. Use like, such as, for instance. And if you want to know the most common mistakes that you are also making in your speaking, then watch this video. Take care. Allah.